The Galactic Council, a vast and powerful governing body that ruled over countless star systems, had long prided itself on maintaining order and stability across its far-reaching empire. However, this order was often built upon the backs of oppressed alien populations, their rights and freedoms routinely trampled in the name of the Council's so-called greater good. One such incident occurred on the remote planet of Cillian, where a small colony of alien refugees had settled, seeking asylum from the turmoil and persecution they had faced in their homeworlds. For years, these refugees had lived in relative peace, eking out an existence on the harsh, windswept plains of Cillian. But their tranquility was shattered when the Galactic Council's enforcers arrived, descending upon the colony with overwhelming force. At the heart of this brutality was a young alien child, no more than 5 years of age, caught in the crossfire as the Council's soldiers swept through the settlement. Terrified cries echoed through the streets as the refugees attempted to flee, but the Council's forces showed no mercy, indiscriminately firing upon the unarmed civilians. The child, cowering behind the crumbling ruins of a makeshift shelter, watched in horror as his parents were struck down, their lifeless bodies crumpling to the ground. Overcome with fear and desperation, the child made a desperate bid for freedom, darting out from his hiding place and running towards the edge of the settlement. But the Council's soldiers were quick to respond, their heavy boots pounding the ground as they gave chase. The child's small legs pumped furiously, his lungs burning with each labored breath, as he weaved between the destroyed buildings, desperate to escape the relentless pursuit. Finally, as the child neared the outskirts of the colony, a lone soldier stepped into his path, raising his weapon with a cold, steely gaze. The child skidded to a halt, his eyes wide with terror, as the soldier's finger tightened on the trigger. In that moment, the very foundations of the Galactic Council's iron-fisted rule were about to be shaken to their core, for the child's fate would soon ignite a firestorm that would reverberate across the stars. The news of the Galactic Council's brutal crackdown on the alien refugee colony on Cillian spread like wildfire through the interconnected information networks that spanned the stars. Graphic images and harrowing accounts of the violence quickly made their way to the far corners of the galactic expanse, igniting a wave of outrage and anguish among the oppressed alien populations. Within the refugee community, the tragic fate of the young child became a rallying cry, a symbol of the Council's unyielding brutality and the systemic injustices that had long plagued their kind. The child's family, racked with grief and a burning desire for justice, refused to allow their loved one's death to be in vain. Led by the child's grief-stricken parents, the refugees banded together, their once subdued voices now rising in a thunderous chorus of defiance. They organized impassioned protests, staging sit-ins and demonstrations outside Galactic Council outposts across the Empire, demanding accountability and reform. But the Council's response was swift and uncompromising. Security forces were deployed to quell the growing unrest, employing heavy-handed tactics that only served to further enrage the protesters. Brutal crackdowns, mass arrests, and the silencing of dissenting voices became the Council's go-to methods for maintaining its iron grip on power. Yet, the refugees refused to be cowed. In the face of such overwhelming adversity, they drew strength from their shared experiences of persecution and oppression. They knew that the death of the innocent child could not be allowed to be swept under the rug, that his memory would become a clarion call for change. As the protests escalated, the refugees sought out allies in the broader galactic community, reaching out to other alien civilizations that had also been subjected to the Council's oppressive rule. Slowly but surely, a network of resistance began to take shape, united in their determination to topple the Galactic Council and its tyrannical hold over the stars. Meanwhile, the child's family, their grief still raw and their resolve unyielding, vowed to take their fight for justice directly to the heart of the Galactic Council's stronghold. They knew that the road ahead would be perilous, but they were undaunted, driven by the memory of their beloved child and the promise of a future where no one would have to suffer the same fate. The stage was now set for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the galactic order, as the echoes of the child's tragic death reverberated across the cosmos, rallying the oppressed and igniting the flames of a revolution. While the Galactic Council's brutal crackdown on the alien refugee colony had ignited a firestorm of outrage and resistance across the far-flung reaches of the Empire, there remained one civilization that had largely kept to itself, content to observe the galactic power struggles from a distance: the human race. For centuries, humanity had remained isolated on its home planet, Earth, firmly abstaining from the political machinations and conflicts that had consumed the larger galactic community. The humans had long been viewed by other alien civilizations as a curious, if somewhat backward, species, their technological capabilities lagging far behind the advanced interstellar societies that surrounded them. But the shocking reports of the Galactic Council's ruthless actions against the defenseless alien child on Cillian would soon shatter humanity's self-imposed isolation, sparking a profound awakening within the human collective consciousness. As the grim details of the incident filtered through the information networks, gradually reaching the far corners of Earth, a profound sense of outrage and empathy began to take root among the human populace. The images of the child's lifeless body, the anguished cries of the refugees, and the Galactic Council's callous disregard for their suffering touched a deep primal chord within the human psyche. Across the globe, citizens watched in horror, their hearts torn between a desire to turn away from the unspeakable violence and an overwhelming urge to act, to somehow reach out and offer aid to the oppressed alien populations. The stark contrast between the Galactic Council's brutality and the human values of compassion and justice ignited a firestorm of debate and soul-searching within the human ranks. Political leaders, once content to maintain their isolationist policies, found themselves facing growing public pressure to intervene and confront the Galactic Council's tyranny. Scientists and engineers, inspired by the prospect of aiding their alien brethren, redoubled their efforts to accelerate humanity's technological development, dreaming of the day when their species could venture forth into the stars and make its mark on the galactic stage. Even within the military, where the traditional focus had been on maintaining a strong defensive posture against potential extraterrestrial threats, a growing contingent of officers and soldiers began to advocate for a more proactive, interventionist approach. They saw the Galactic Council's brutality as a clarion call to action, a chance for humanity to shed its image as a passive, unimportant player and emerge as a force to be reckoned with in the galactic arena. As the grassroots movement for action gained momentum, the human civilization found itself on the cusp of a monumental decision. Would they remain content to watch from the sidelines as the Galactic Council's oppression continued unchecked, or would they heed the call to arms and risk everything to stand up for the values they held dear? The answer to that question would soon shake the very foundations of the galactic order, as humanity's fiery determination to confront the Council's brutality threatened to ignite a conflict that would reverberate across the stars. As the reports of the Galactic Council's brutal crackdown on the alien refugee colony on Cillian continued to reverberate across Earth, a grassroots movement for action began to take shape, galvanizing the human population into a collective cry for intervention. Leading the charge were influential political figures who found themselves facing mounting public pressure to take a stand against the Council's tyranny. Recognizing the growing sentiment of outrage and a desire for justice among the people, these leaders began to strategize, seeking ways to harness the public's energy and channel it into a coherent, organized effort. Prominent members of the scientific community also joined the fray, aware that any meaningful intervention against the Galactic Council would require a significant technological leap for humanity. Research labs and think tanks buzzed with activity as engineers and visionaries worked tirelessly to develop the advanced interstellar technologies that would be needed to venture beyond Earth's orbit and into the vast expanse of the galactic community. Meanwhile, in the halls of power, military leaders found themselves at the center of intense debates and discussions. Some advocated for a cautious, defensive approach, warning of the potential risks and consequences of engaging in an open conflict with the formidable Galactic Council. Others, however, saw the Council's brutality as a clarion call to action, a chance for humanity to shed its passive image and emerge as a powerful force to be reckoned with in the galactic arena. As the divisions within the human ranks deepened, the fate of the alien refugees on Cillian and the memory of the innocent child's tragic death became the central rallying cry for those who sought to take action. Impassioned speeches and emotional appeals flooded the airwaves as influential figures from across the political, scientific, and military spheres made the case for a bold, decisive intervention. The public, its collective consciousness awakened by the horrors witnessed on Cillian, responded in kind, with massive demonstrations and rallies taking place in cities and towns across the globe. Chants of justice for the Cillian child and humanity must act echoed through the streets as the people made their voices heard, demanding that their leaders take decisive action to confront the Galactic Council's brutality. Yet, even as the call to arms grew louder, there remained deep-seated concerns and hesitations within certain segments of the human population. The fear of the unknown, the prospect of engaging in a potentially devastating conflict with the formidable galactic powers, and the uncertainty of the consequences all served to temper the enthusiasm of some. As the debates raged on, the world held its breath, waiting to see which path humanity would choose. Would they heed the call to stand up for their values and the oppressed, or would they succumb to the allure of caution and retreat into the familiar isolation that had defined their species for so long? The answer to that question would soon set the stage for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the galactic order, as humanity's fiery determination to right the wrongs committed against the innocent child on Cillian threatened to ignite a conflict that would reverberate across the stars. As the clamor for action against the Galactic Council's brutality continued to build on Earth, the human civilization found itself facing a monumental challenge: to rapidly develop the technological capabilities necessary to venture forth into the galactic expanse and confront the formidable council head-on. The task was daunting, for centuries of isolation had left humanity's interstellar capabilities far behind that of the more advanced alien civilizations that dominated the galactic stage. But the public's impassioned calls for justice, coupled with the determination of the scientific and military communities, galvanized the human population into a relentless pursuit of this technological leap. In research labs and think tanks across the globe, teams of brilliant minds worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and engineering. Breakthroughs in propulsion systems, energy generation, and interstellar communication paved the way for the development of advanced spacecraft and long-range exploration capabilities. Meanwhile, the military establishment, once focused primarily on defensive strategies, shifted its attention to the design and construction of powerful interstellar-capable warships. Leveraging the newfound technological advancements, the human armed forces began to prepare for the momentous task of venturing beyond Earth's orbit and into the vast, uncharted galactic expanse. As these preparations gained momentum, the human leaders found themselves facing a new set of challenges: that of navigating the complex and often treacherous political landscape of the galactic community. For centuries, the human civilization had been viewed as an isolationist, inconsequential player, and now they found themselves seeking to establish alliances and forge diplomatic ties with alien civilizations that were wary of their sudden emergence. Delicate negotiations ensued as the human representatives sought to convince the skeptical galactic powers of their sincere intentions and their unwavering commitment to confronting the Galactic Council's oppression. Some alien civilizations, long suffering under the Council's tyrannical rule, were receptive to the prospect of a human-led intervention, seeing it as a glimmer of hope in their ongoing struggle for freedom and justice. Others, however, remained deeply distrustful of the upstart human civilization, fearing that their intervention could destabilize the fragile balance of power that had been maintained for generations. Concerns over the unpredictable consequences of such an action as well as the potential for retaliation from the Galactic Council, tempered the enthusiasm of some potential allies. As the diplomatic dance unfolded, the human leaders found themselves walking a tightrope, carefully balancing the need to secure essential alliances with the imperative to maintain the public's ardent support for the impending confrontation. Every step was fraught with uncertainty, for the fate of the Tsilian refugees and the memory of the innocent child's death hung in the balance. Yet, even as these intricate political maneuvers played out, the human military continued its feverish preparations, assembling a formidable force that stood ready to venture forth and confront the Galactic Council's brutality. The stage was now set for a momentous showdown, as humanity's first foray into the galactic arena loomed on the horizon. The moment of reckoning had finally arrived. After months of feverish preparations, the combined forces of humanity and their newly forged galactic allies stood poised to launch a daring assault against the very heart of the Galactic Council's power. The plan, meticulously crafted by the human military strategists and their experienced galactic counterparts, was bold and ambitious. They would strike swiftly and decisively, targeting the Council's central command hub, a heavily fortified stronghold that had long been considered impregnable. As the massive fleet of interstellar warships, their hulls gleaming with the latest in human and galactic technology, made its final approach towards the Council's bastion, a hush fell over the crews. They knew that the fate of the oppressed alien populations and the memory of the innocent child whose death had ignited this conflict rested squarely on their shoulders. The first waves of the assault came in the form of precision-guided missile strikes and long-range energy bombardments, softening the Council's defenses and paving the way for the ground forces to make their move. Heavily armored dropships, their hulls bristling with weaponry, descended upon the stronghold, disgorging legions of battle-hardened soldiers from both the human and galactic contingents. The ensuing battle was a chaotic, brutal affair, as the invading forces clashed with the Council's elite defenders. Laser beams crisscrossed the skies, while the thunderous roar of explosions shook the foundations of the stronghold. Amidst the chaos, individual acts of heroism and sacrifice emerged, as the soldiers fought to breach the Council's formidable defenses and secure a foothold within the enemy's citadel. For the child's family, who had made the perilous journey to the Galactic Council's seat of power, the battle held a personal significance that transcended the broader strategic objectives. They watched from a safe distance, their hearts pounding with a mixture of hope and trepidation, as the conflict unfolded before their eyes. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn in favor of the invading forces. The Council's defenders, faced with the relentless onslaught of the combined human and galactic armada, began to falter, their resolve crumbling in the face of the sheer determination and ferocity of their opponents. Finally, after hours of intense fighting, the human and galactic troops breached the innermost sanctum of the Council's stronghold, storming the very chambers where the Council's elite leaders had long plotted their oppressive rule. The child's family, their faces etched with a mixture of grief and triumph, led the charge, driven by the memory of their lost loved one and a burning desire for justice. The confrontation that followed was nothing short of cataclysmic, as the Council's staunchest defenders made a final desperate stand against the invading forces. But in the end, the weight of numbers and the sheer force of the human-led onslaught proved too much, and the Galactic Council's once impregnable bastion crumbled under the onslaught. As the dust settled and the last remnants of the Council's forces surrendered, a profound silence fell over the battlefield. For the child's family, and for the countless oppressed alien populations across the galactic expanse, this moment marked the beginning of a new era, one in which the specter of the Galactic Council's brutality would finally be laid to rest. As the dust settled on the battlefield, the human and galactic forces stood amidst the rubble of the once impregnable Galactic Council stronghold, a profound silence settling over the scene. The epic confrontation that had raged for hours had finally come to a climactic conclusion, with the Council's elite defenders defeated and their citadel laid to waste. For the child's family, who had traveled the vast expanse of the galactic theater to witness the final reckoning. This moment held a significance that transcended the strategic victory. They had come seeking justice, driven by the memory of their beloved child, whose tragic death had ignited the flames of this momentous conflict. As the child's parents stepped forward, their faces etched with a mix of grief and relief, they found themselves surrounded by the human and galactic troops who had risked everything to bring down the Council's tyrannical rule. The soldiers, once strangers bound only by a shared cause, now regarded the family with a reverence that bordered on awe, for they recognized the enormous personal sacrifice that had fueled this crusade. In the midst of this charged atmosphere, the child's parents approached the remnants of the Council's elite defenders, who now cowered before the victorious forces. With unwavering resolve, the parents demanded to know the fate of those responsible for their child's death, their voices trembling with a mixture of anguish and righteous fury. The Council's leaders, their once formidable aura of power now shattered, had no choice but to confess to the horrific acts they had sanctioned against the innocent refugees on Xilion. As they recounted the chilling details, their words laced with a newfound fear, the child's parents found their grief transformed into a burning desire for retribution. In that moment, the human and galactic troops watched in silence as the parents exacted their long-awaited vengeance, their actions fueled by a lifetime of pain and a searing sense of injustice. The Council's leaders, once the embodiment of absolute power, now met their downfall at the hands of the very people they had so mercilessly wronged. As the final vestiges of the Galactic Council's reign crumbled, a profound sense of liberation and hope began to sweep through the galactic expanse. The oppressed alien populations, long subjected to the Council's tyrannical rule, emerged from the shadows, their voices rising in a chorus of jubilation and triumph. For the human civilization, this moment marked a pivotal turning point in their journey, a testament to the power of their unwavering determination and their willingness to risk everything to confront the Galactic Council's brutality. The child's memory had become a rallying cry, a symbol of the human values of compassion and justice that had now been etched into the galactic landscape. As the victorious forces began the arduous task of rebuilding and restoring order to the ravaged galactic regions, the child's family found themselves at the center of the celebrations, their grief slowly giving way to a sense of purpose and a renewed determination to forge a future where no one would have to suffer their child's fate. The stage was now set for the creation of a new galactic order, one built upon the foundations of equality, justice, and the unbreakable spirit of those who had risked everything to overthrow the Galactic Council's reign of terror. The fall of the Galactic Council sent shockwaves through the very fabric of the galactic landscape, leaving behind a power vacuum that threatened to plunge the entire interstellar community into chaos. With the once formidable governing body reduced to rubble, a flurry of activity erupted as various factions vied for control and influence over the newly liberated regions. Among the human and galactic forces that had spearheaded the assault on the Council's stronghold, there was a growing sense of both triumph and trepidation. They had achieved their goal of toppling the oppressive regime, but now they found themselves facing the daunting task of rebuilding and restructuring the galactic order from the ground up. The first order of business was to establish a provisional governing authority that could maintain stability and prevent the outbreak of widespread conflict among the various alien civilizations. Drawing upon the diverse experiences and perspectives of the galactic allies, the human leaders worked tirelessly to forge a framework for a new, more equitable system of governance. Delicate negotiations and heated debates ensued, as the representatives from each alien civilization sought to ensure that their interests and the needs of their people were adequately represented in the emerging galactic framework. Tempers flared, and old rivalries threatened to reignite, but the shared trauma of the Council's brutality and the memory of the innocent child's sacrifice served as a powerful unifying force. Gradually, through a process of compromise and collaboration, the outlines of a new galactic council began to take shape, one that would be accountable to the will of the people, with checks and balances to prevent the concentration of unchecked power. The participating civilizations agreed to a set of guiding principles that emphasized the values of justice, equality, and the protection of individual rights, a stark contrast to the authoritarian rule of the previous council. Yet even as this new order began to coalesce, the human and galactic forces faced the daunting challenge of reconciling the deep-seated mistrust and resentment that had festered under the Galactic Council's oppressive reign. Centuries of oppression, persecution, and conflicting interests had left scars that would not be easily healed, and the path towards true unity and cooperation remained fraught with obstacles. The child's family, having played a pivotal role in the downfall of the Galactic Council, found themselves at the heart of these efforts, their voices carrying the unique moral authority that commanded the respect and attention of the various galactic factions. They advocated tirelessly for a future where no one would have to suffer the same fate as their beloved child, and their unwavering commitment to justice and healing inspired others to follow in their footsteps. As the negotiations continued, the human and galactic leaders recognized that the road ahead would be long and arduous, requiring a sustained commitment to the principles of reconciliation and trust-building. But they were undaunted, their resolve strengthened by the memory of the innocent child whose tragic death had ignited this momentous revolution. The stage was now set for the creation of a new galactic order, one that would be forged in the crucible of this historic conflict and imbued with the values of compassion, equality, and a steadfast determination to ensure that the horrors of the past would never be repeated. As the dust settled and the chaos of the Galactic Council's downfall began to give way to a fragile semblance of order, the human civilization found itself thrust into the forefront of the galactic community, its role and influence forever transformed by the momentous events that had unfolded. The shockwaves of humanity's decisive intervention against the Council's brutality reverberated across the stars, sparking a profound recalibration of the political, social, and cultural dynamics that had long defined the galactic landscape. No longer were the humans viewed as a peripheral, inconsequential species. Their actions had irrevocably altered the trajectory of the entire galactic order. For the child's family, who had borne witness to the cataclysmic fall of the Council and the liberation of the oppressed alien populations, this newfound prominence of the human civilization held a deeply personal significance. They had seen firsthand the power of human compassion and determination, and they took great pride in the role their beloved child had played in igniting this revolution. As the leaders of the newly formed Galactic Council convened to chart the course for a future built upon the ruins of the old order, the child's family found themselves at the center of the discussions, their voices carrying a moral authority that commanded the rapt attention of their galactic counterparts. Time and again, the child's parents reminded the assembled representatives of the importance of safeguarding the rights and freedoms of all sentient beings, drawing upon the lessons of the past to ensure that the horrors of the Galactic Council's reign would never be repeated. Their unwavering commitment to justice and their refusal to allow their child's sacrifice to be forgotten became a rallying cry for the galactic community, inspiring others to follow in their footsteps. But the legacy of humanity's intervention extended far beyond the immediate aftermath of the Council's downfall. As the newly established galactic framework began to take shape, the influence of human values and principles became increasingly evident, shaping the very foundations of the emerging order. The emphasis on individual rights, the promotion of democratic governance, and the rejection of unchecked power and oppression. These were hallmarks of the human civilization that had now been woven into the fabric of the galactic community. Slowly but surely, the once insular human civilization found itself embraced as a respected and integral part of the galactic tapestry, its unique perspective and moral compass guiding the path towards a more just and equitable future. Yet, even as the human civilization's stature and influence grew, the memories of the child's tragic death and the sacrifices made by the brave soldiers who had fought to overthrow the Galactic Council remained ever present. The child's family, their grief tempered by a sense of purpose, became the custodians of this enduring legacy, ensuring that the lessons of the past would not be forgotten. As the galactic community embarked on the monumental task of rebuilding and reconciliation, the human civilization stood at the forefront, lending its technological prowess, diplomatic acumen, and moral vision to the collective effort. The once isolated species had now become an indispensable pillar of the new galactic order, its unique perspective and unwavering commitment to justice shaping the course of the stars. In the years that followed, the child's memory would become a symbol of the transformative power of human intervention, a beacon that would inspire generations of galactic citizens to stand up against oppression and fight for a future where compassion and equality reigned supreme. The Galactic Council's brutality had been vanquished, and in its place, a new era of hope and possibility had dawned. An era in which the human civilization had forever cemented its place as a force to be reckoned with in the vast expanse of the galactic landscape.